From the towering Wasatch Mountains of the American Southwest, we welcome you to the next episode of Undiscovered Utah. This show focuses on the mysteries that surround the rugged, difficult, and sometimes deadly American Southwest. I'm your host, JB, and tonight we're going to talk about Moab, Utah, and the off-roading trails around Moab. Let me tell you something. My wife and I love riding motorcycles. We have ridden all over the western United States with a group of friends, and we just had a hoot. My nephew, who used to ride motorcycles with us, had recently purchased a four-seater side-by-side for his young family, and took me for a short ride one day in the foothills near his home. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. When I got home, I told my wife about it and how much fun it was. That next Saturday, we went to a local dealer and looked around at the different models and features. My sister had gone with us to the dealership. It wasn't long until we had found one we liked. My sister also found one that she liked. My wife and I discussed the years of fun we had had on our motorcycles, and if it was time to try something new. After much discussion, we decided that it was. So we sold our motorcycles and bought our own four-seater side-by-side. My sister also sold her motorcycle and bought her a very nice two-seater. It was just weeks after purchasing our side-by-side that COVID started to spread across the United States and Utah. Everything was shutting down, except for the great outdoors. With any new toy, you use it a lot when you first get it, and COVID gave us a good excuse to get out and use our new side-by-side. Previously, we had owned ATVs, and my wife's family all have ATVs, and when we would visit her hometown, it often involved ATV rides through the beautiful mountains of eastern Idaho. Her family was also making a switch from ATVs to UTVs. 5 Mile Pass OHV area is where we started to break in our side-by-side. Then soon we were taking it down to the San Rafael Swell. It wasn't too long until it was time to go to Moab, Utah. Moab, Utah is a world-renowned vacation destination. It is the gateway to 2 national parks, Arches and Canyonlands. It is also well known for its slick rock, mountain climbing, mountain biking, hiking, and river rafting. The city of Moab sits in a valley surrounded by high, deep red sandstone cliffs. The mighty Colorado River runs across this valley just north of town. Moab is called Utah's adventure epicenter, and with good reason. I have been visiting Moab ever since I was a young boy, and to this day I am still discovering new sites that I never knew existed. For many, many years, Moab has been the home of the annual Jeep Safari. Every Easter weekend, thousands of Jeeps and other four-wheel drive vehicles descend on Moab for this 9-day safari. Red Rock Four-Wheelers Incorporated hosts this event every year and provide different day-long trail rides each day. If you are into off-roading, then you know that Moab is the creme de la creme. In all my years of visiting Moab, I had never really done any off-roading. Oh, sure, we had taken the truck on some dirt roads, But that's not really what off-roading in Moab is all about. The first time we took our side-by-side to Moab, we went with another couple that are great friends of ours. We arrived in Moab in the early afternoon, got checked into our accommodations, and unpacked. Since none of us were experienced with the trails around Moab, I did a little searching on the internet before we left. I found a few trails that sounded like fun just east of town. Since our side-by-side is street legal, we decided to drive it right from the place where we were staying to the trailhead. It was during the summer and the sun didn't set until around 9 p.m. It was early evening when we reached the well-marked trailhead. We turned off the main road and headed down the sandy trail. The area was beautiful. Old Utah junipers growing up out of the sand and slick rock mounds. The evening was spectacular. The area wasn't crowded and the temperature was perfect. It wasn't long until we came to the first obstacle. I stopped at the base, looked up and said out loud, "I guess we go up that?" Our friends we had with us are super nice people, and the weekend was part of the husband's birthday present from his wife. He was a big guy, and I don't mean overweight. He is built like a Mack truck and is a manly man, if you know what I mean. The obstacle that was before us was a little intimidating, to say the least. But I couldn't show that I was nervous. After all, I don't want to appear like a wimp. So, like the old deodorant commercial tagline, never let them see you sweat. So, up we went. Soon, all I could see was blue sky. I could no longer see what was in front of me. It felt as if we were going straight uphill. I poked my head out the side of the UTV so I could see something. Holy cow, what were we doing? The UTV climbed up the slick rock like there was nothing to it, but it felt like we had just broken every physics law in the book. When we reached the top, I stopped. Where do we go now? Oh, straight down on the other side of the sandstone hill. At least this time I could see where I was going. I was just crawling along this trail of ups and downs, gripping the steering wheel like I was trying to strangle it. Even though I was nervous and going very slow, I was learning what Moab is all about. This was a blast. The Moab area has hundreds of trails with the most stunning scenery you can imagine. There are trails for every skill level. Just make sure you understand your true skill level. You don't have to visit Moab on the busy Easter Jeep Safari week to enjoy the trails. Most of the trails are open year-round. If you are new to the Moab area and its trails, I would recommend getting a guidebook. There is a great book by Charles A. Wells called Moab, Utah, Back Roads and Four-Wheel Drive Trails. In this book, Wells covers 80 different trails, and they are shown in great detail and are rated from easy to difficult. I came to learn that my first trail in Moab was rated moderate to difficult in the above-mentioned book. Nothing like jumping into the deep end of the pool if you don't know how to swim. If you don't own your own four-wheel drive off-road vehicle, Moab has many places you can rent them. They may seem a little pricey, but it's a lot cheaper than trying to make monthly payments, especially if you're only going to go once or twice a year. If you do rent, I would highly recommend getting insurance. Almost every time we have hit the trail, we find at least one poor person that got in a little over their head and either rolled their vehicle or broke their front axle or some other major part. Almost all the people on the trails are very nice and will do what they can to help another rider. That is one of the cool things I like about Moab and Utah in general. But every once in a while you come across some guy, and it's always a guy, the women are always nice, some guy that has got something to prove. He's very impatient or just an all-around jerk. Everybody just needs to relax and have fun and be friendly. So tonight I want to tell you about some of my favorite trails with the understanding that I know there are many of you out there that are much more knowledgeable than I am on this topic. Before we get started, we should really talk about a new law that went into effect on January 1st, 2023. It is now a Utah state law that all drivers of off-road vehicles must obtain an OHV education certificate to drive an OHV anywhere in the state of Utah. You can visit the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation website for more information. The training modules, test, and certificate are all free, and the test is quite easy. Make sure you get this taken care of before you head out this year. Now, on to the trails around Moab. The trails around Moab have some really peculiar names like Mashed Potato, Wipeout Hill, Chicken Corners, Metal Masher, Steelbender, and Hell's Revenge, just to name a few. As I read some of those names, what did you envision the trail might be like? Take Hell's Revenge, for example. Well, I'll say this much. Most of the time, those trails live up to their names. Two of the most popular trails in the area are called Fins and Things and Hell's Revenge. Both of these trails are located within the Sand Flats Recreation Area. Let's start with Hell's Revenge. This trail got its name from Dan Mick and George Schultz. It was a very hot day back in 1973, and they were riding this challenging trail. Between the heat and the crazy and beautiful terrain, the trail name was born. Today, Hell's Revenge is a rite of passage. It is a must-do trail that is rated difficult. It's always a good idea to go with someone who knows the trail if it's your first time. You will need a good spotter to help you navigate the more difficult obstacles. What is an obstacle? It's a more difficult part of the trail that requires more thought and planning before you attempt it. Many times riders will get out of their vehicle and walk the obstacle before deciding whether it is something they want to attempt or not. Obstacles like Mickey's Hot Tub, Hell's Gate, Lake Michigan, Tip Over Challenge, and the Escalator are a few of the ones on Hell's Revenge. If it is your first time, it's okay and healthy to be nervous. Everyone on that trail had to go through their first time, and I can guarantee you that their butt cheeks were gripping that seat cushion pretty tightly. This trail has some one-way sections. Make sure you obey all the signs and stay on the trail. Otherwise, you could end up in a disastrous situation. If you are not up to trying an obstacle, that's okay. This trail offers many bypasses, and you can save those obstacles for a later time. At the midpoint of Hell's Revenge Trail, you are rewarded with an amazing view over the Colorado River. But be careful, there are no guardrails anywhere. Also, at the end of the trail is the Hell's Gate obstacle. Even if it's above your pay grade, you should stop and watch others give it a go. It's just insane. Fins and Things is another trail just to the east of Hell's Revenge, and it is such a fun trail. It is a grown-up's playground, and at times the trail is more like a gut-wrenching roller coaster than an OHV trail. This trail is rated moderate to difficult, and the entire trail is one way. Words cannot do justice to just how amazing the scenery is along this trail. But this incredible scenery is reserved for only those brave enough to ride the trail. For those that don't want to leave bite marks in their seat cushion, but still want to see jaw-dropping landscapes that 90% of the visitors to Moab never get to see, I recommend the Schaefer Canyon Trail. This trail is rated easy and can be done in a stock SUV. You don't drive this trail for the challenge. You drive this trail for the spectacular scenery. This trail follows the Colorado River and starts near the potash plant at the end of the Potash Road. The Potash Road is north of Moab and across this road from the entrance to Arches National Park. Along the Schaefer Trail, there are many overlooks to take photos, and if you're lucky, you might even see a rare California condor flying in the air currents along the Red Rock Cliffs. When you come to an area that looks like it might be the end of the road, and the trail opens up to a big gravel area, you are at the location of two famous movie landmarks. Do you remember the movie Thelma and Louise? At the end of the movie, Thelma and Louise drive their car off a cliff. Do you remember that scene? Well, this is the spot where that was filmed. Looking over the edge might gird up your loins a bit. Again, there are no fences or guardrails. Now, if you turn around and look up, you will see where the free climbing scene in Mission Impossible 2 was filmed. If you continue down the Schaefer Trail, you will come to the boundary of Canyonlands National Park. At this point, ATVs and side-by-sides, even street-legal side-by-sides, are not allowed in the national park, or any national park. You must turn around and head back the way you came. If you're in a Jeep, truck, or SUV, you can continue into the park and drive up the famous Schaefer Trail switchbacks. The trail ends when it intersects with Highway 313, just inside the park boundary. You definitely want a camera and some binoculars for this trail. You can often see desert bighorn sheep along this trail, so keep a watchful eye out and your speed down. Another easy trail with amazing scenery is the Gemini Bridges Trail. This trail starts near the Moab Airport and is rated easy. It is definitely one of the most popular trails in the Moab area. Mountain bikers love this trail, so watch out for them and remember, they always have the right of way. This trail can easily be done in a stock SUV. You most likely will not see the stunning natural bridge until you're practically on top of it. And here's a hint. Look down. Okay, we talked about a couple of trails that are easy and a couple of trails that are difficult. Is there anything in between? Absolutely. The Dome Plateau Trail is a great example. Arches, deep canyon overlooks, huge caves, hiking trails, and an old mining camp await those that venture on this fun trail. This is a great trail for UTVs. There are two starting points for this trail. The first starting point has no parking, so you cannot park your outfit here if you trailered your UTV to this area. You must proceed to the second starting point where there is parking allowed. The first starting point is located at the Dewey Bridge along the Colorado River. The second starting point is just past the Dewey Bridge at the turnoff for the Kokopelli Bike Trail. Here, you can unload and park your vehicles. You definitely want to take a map on this trail and a camera. Rainbow Terrace is another great moderate trail. This trail offers a few smaller ledges to navigate, sandy spots, and some really great views. And it ends at Crystal Geyser. Rainbow Terrace gets its name because of the striated red rock layers or needles. At sunset, when the sun hits this massive sandstone wall, it can produce a rainbow-like effect, especially after a rainstorm. These are just a few of the many trails around the Moab area. There are many more trails of all difficulty levels, and all of them have unique things to see and do. Rent a Jeep or a UTV and give it a try. Please be aware that there are those out there that are trying their hardest to get all of the off-road adventures in Moab area shut down permanently. These people hate the noise the machines make while driving through town. They are convinced that all off-roaders just drive wherever they want and just tear up the landscape. They assume that we are all drunk and that we just throw our litter out the window onto the ground and keep driving. And we all drive like bats out of hell. These people are really serious about getting it all shut down and are very vocal. Why do they have these outlandish notions? Well, it's because there are a few riders out there that do everything I just listed above. And if it continues, they are going to get us all kicked out, and these trails will be closed. This is one of the reasons the state of Utah has created this new law that requires all of us to watch videos and take a test of what should be common sense. It only takes a few to ruin it for everyone else. Spread the word, because we want the trails around Moab to stay open for generations to come. The Moab area offers many accommodation options. There are many camping options in Moab or along the Colorado River. Main Street in Moab is full of gift shops and restaurants. Visit Moab this year and let us know what adventure you went on. We would love to hear from you, especially if you have a favorite Moab trail or story about off-roading around Moab. Who knows? Maybe we'll invite you to be on the show. Just drop us an email at info@undiscoveredutah.com. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at Undiscovered Utah Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Undiscovered Utah. Join me next week as I share more about the Great Southwest. Good night, everybody.